Okay, let's go. Let's segue into today's daf. Take a look at the picture book, page 63. Page 63. Bottom picture on the left. Sukkah gabe achsadra sheyesh le'pitzim k'shera.
That's on high.
Yeah.
Meet for Shabbos. He says, "Oh, I love this. So you'll take it."
Okay, so go. This look. So you have over here. You have this sukkah. It has. It's an achsadra, meaning you're using the outside walls. It's in front of the house, but this has ptzimim. It has columns. Now these columns are within 3 tefachim of each other. So we'll say lovewood. So everybody says in this scenario that it's kosher. Everybody says in this scenario that it's kosher. No one says it's not. Where's the machlokus between Abai and Rava? Is the next page, page 64. Page 64, you have the same scenario, but it does not have psimim, it doesn't have columns. All you have is the open area, and it's more than 4 amos away, so you can't say dofen akuma. You can't say these walls are connected. However, Abai says we will look at the edge of the wall, and we'll say the din of good achas. This good achas states that the edge of a wall you can put it down, and so that's what he says that's okay, and in fact, Rabbi says it's not okay. Rabbi says it's not okay. Okay, so now we want to sushtel that machlokus between Abai and Rava to machlokus between Rav and Shmuel. So we're holding on Yud Ches Amid Beis, and Amalei Rava le'Abaya. Says Rabbi to Abaya 3 lines from the top. Lididach, according to you, the amit that you say P tikra yared v'saisim, that's a type of good achis, where the edge of a tikra with a certain thickness to it, we'll say it comes down and closes off, and therefore in that case by the exadra the sukkah will be kosher. Afilu hifchis doifen emtsoi, even if you're missing the middle wall. In other words, page 64, picture. Even if you'd be missing the middle wall, you can go ahead and create, using the din of pitikra yared v'saisim, you can close down that wall, and then you'd have a sukkah with 3 defanos, correct? Look in the front, what he's doing. You see the yellow line there in front, we're using as pitikra. So you'd say pitikra over there. So says Rabbi to Abaya, why would you not say in that case, a bigger chiddush, even a 2-walled sukkah would be good? So Amalei, so Abaya tells Rabbi, Modina l'cha I'm moided to you if there's only 2 walls, that at the 3rd wall you will not say pitikra. The hablei kimova hemafulish, because that's like a mavoi, that's like an alleyway mafulish that's open. And we said an alleyway that's open is not a kosher sukkah. It only has 2 walls. Okay, that's where we're holding so far. Now, says the Gemara, Lema Abai v'Rava. Let us say Abai v'Rava beplukta derabu Shmuel k'mifri. The machloikus between Abai v'Rava is dependent upon the machloikus Rav and Shmuel. Now, what's the machloikus in Rav and Shmuel? Take a look on page 65. Page 65. And here you have this. Shragi asked me this earlier. You have an achsadra. You have a portico. It's open on 4 sides, and it has, it's like wood on top. So if you say pitikra, guys, let's go to the following. Watch. 2, 4. So we have a machlokas. We have this Melach Masech Shabbos. We know in a bika is a carmelis, and the Chachamim said that a carmelis has the chumrah of a shus hayachid as chumrah of a shus harabim. What's the chumrah of a shus harabim? You can't carry 4 amos in the carmelis. So you have a valley. You can't carry 4 amos in the carmelis. What happens if you're in this achsadra? Can you carry 4 amos in this achsadra? Well, it would depend. If it's walled on 4 sides, we'd say yes. And if it's not considered walled, then you can't. Good. Rav said you can carry 4 amos underneath this portico. We will view it as a closed area, a rishus hayachid, and you can carry within. Shmuel said no. Shmuel said we'll view it as open. We won't say pi tikra yared v'saisim to close it down on 4 sides, and therefore you are in an open carmelis, an open valley, and you cannot carry. Let's now tzushtel this machloikus Rav and Shmuel to machloikus between Abai and Rava. Okay, what does Abai say? Abai says, I will say pi tikra yared v'saisim. If I have this achsadra without these psimim, I'm going to say the edge is going to go down and you'll have a closed area. So obviously, Abaya would hold like Rav. Abaya would hold like Rav. Just as Rav says the achsadra is considered closed, who adin the achsadra with the sukkah will be considered closed. And like Rava, who says you do not say in this scenario, Pitikra Yair V'Saisim, nor would he would agree with Shmuel, that in the valley you also don't say Pitikra V'Saisim, you can't carry. So apparently we could say the machlokes between Abaye and Rava, in fact, this machlokes earlier Amoraim, the Amoraim Rav and Shmuel. Let's just see that inside. So there were on the top. There's certain thickness on the top. On the top, no, we're speaking about coming down from the top, Mordechai, closing off the area on the top. That's what we're speaking about. We're not speaking about creating a doifin from the wall. We're creating from the doifin from the top, using the concept of P tikra, the edge of a tikra of a ceiling yorid goes down to sosim and it seals off. Because that's what Abaya said. You're viewing that area sealed off, linyan sukkah. You're making a sukkah. So if you're making a sukkah, linyan rishus Rabbi also, let's make it rishus hayachid. Says the Gemara, no. So Abaya v'Rav Shmuel did mar. The sechta we had the scenario, we had the Shabbos. Achsadra bika. You have an achsadra in a bika. Rav Amar mutal l'taltla b'kula. You're permitted to carry throughout. Why? Because it's a rishus. It's a rishus hayachid. It's closed off. Now, meaning we say pi tikra yair b'saisim. Shmuel says, you can't carry. Why? You're limited to 4 amis. So therefore, guys, let's match them up. Abaya, who says by sukkah it's a good wall, would hold by asadra it's a good wall. And Rav, who says it's not a good wall by sukkah, linyan Shabbos by asadra, it's also not a good wall. Good. Says the Gemara the following. Aliba de Shmuel kol yamalei pligi. Guys, Rashi says it over here. I always tell it to you. The first, and when you have these Gemaras, when you started Sushtel, when you always want to come out according to, you don't want to be machlokes. Usually it's an Amoiru who doesn't argue on the Tana. Here's two Amoraim, but still, if at all possible, you don't want to argue on what on. So the first one is, always say this, the first one is, I against my will, I have to say it's machlokes. There's no way out. In other words, there is no way out that Abaya can come out according to Shmuel. There's no way. Abaya can't come out according to Abaya, who says that by the achsadra, by the achsadra that you're making into a sukkah, that you're going to say pi tikra, he can't hold like Shmuel, because Shmuel obviously says what? You don't say pi tikra. Good. So that's all. That's off the charts. However, you want to say that Rav and Rava, right, that Rav and Rava can't agree. Well, maybe not. So I'll leave it to Shmuel Kolyam Le Pligi that Abaya argues in Shmuel. Ki Pligi, where it was Machlaikas, I'll leave it to Rav. Abaya Karav. Abaya would hold like Rav that you say Pi Tikra, and then it's a sukkah, and therefore it's what? It's a Rishus HaYachid. For Rav Amar Nolcha, Ad Kan Like Amar Rav Hasam. Rav only says by Masechta Shabbos, El the Mechitzas Lach Sadra Hu Davidi. Because what's the purpose of the boards that you made? Again, you're sitting underneath an enclosure. Page 65, right? Page 65. What was the purpose of those boards? Those boards were to make that area a closed area. In other words, it's open air, but it was made for being inside it, correct? Yes, it was made to be inside. So when you're inside something, then it's easier to say Pitikor Yored V'Saisim for the inside. I'm playing house, right? I built a tree house, and I'm sitting in the tree, and it's open, and I put a roof on. That roof clearly, in your mind, wants to be enclosed. The purpose of any enclosure is for the inside. Masha Enken, guys, picture page 64. Picture 226. This picture, right? Those walls that you want to go ahead and say Pitikra, they're not made for the outside, they're made for the inside. They're not made for the outside, they're made for the inside. So in other words, it could be Rav says Pitikra by Shabbos because what you made is made for the inside, for the cholol, for the open space inside. On the other hand, by sukkah, where you want to use an outside for a wall on the outside, which it wasn't made for that purpose, there I will not say pitikra. Don't automatically say pitikra because why? There's a width of a piece of wood or a projector coming down over there. It's not, you're not locked into saying that. I can make a tremendous chilik, which is the Gemara is making right now. Purpose. Why we said it earlier. I said this very geschmack. That you remember when we did the sugya of how do you know 10? We said, how do you know 10? Guys, how do you know 10? So we began from the Oren. Because Baruch Hu says what? I'll make myself known on top of the kapiris. How big was the kapiris? It was 1 tefach. It was on the top of the Oren, which was 9 tefachim, total of 10 tefachim, right? So guys, what was the raya to a wall? What was the raya to a wall? So I spoke at then. You see, the purpose of a wall is for the rishus inside the wall. It's the same thing over here. The purpose of what? Of an achsaj is what's inside. So therefore, I can go ahead and make a chilik. I can make a distinction between the inside and the outside over here.
So you're saying is, imagine this area as being.
This would be great. You say P tikra. Okay, so let's say.
Where he's sitting, they're inside.
Let's do it better. Come over here. You're staying right here. Everyone in here, we'd say P tikra, but not for Yehuda, not for Avrami, not for Mordechai. Because they're outside using the edge over here is the pitikra, right? Using that edge, they're outside. So you can make, which makes sense, right? It's a good svara. So it says Nachamal. Says the Gemara. Keep pligi aliba the Rav. Abayit karav. The Rav Amalacha ad kan like Amar Rav Hasam Ella the mechitzas lachsadra Davidi. The mechitzas make for the purpose of lachsadra. Aval hacha over here by the sukkah the lav lahachi avidi loy. It wasn't made for the purpose of the inside, it's made for the purpose of the outside. There I would not say what? I would not say P tikra. Okay, Tanan. It says, V'chein chotzer hamukefes achsadra. The din in the Mishnah, we said, we won't say P tikra yored v'saisim. Guys, but mukefes achsadra, we had the case, was one on Yud Zayin, it was the third case. You have 4 amis. You have 4 amis going in, and where would that picture be? Take a look. Page 858. 58. First picture on the page. 58. First picture on the page. So over here, this is an achsadra mukefes. We said if it's 4 amas away, we won't say P tikra. Again, if you want the book, it's $20. It's still available at Torah Treasures. Torah Treasures. I left one in the country for my grandson. I picked one up today. My wife said she should pick up some more. I should have said yes. Okay, anyway. So over here. So guys, over here you see you have now this is 4 amas away. You don't say Dofen Akuma. The question is, if you hold P tikra yerv v'saisim, why don't you go ahead at the edge of the wall and put it down and bring it down? Guys, watch. Look at. Here's the book. If this is 4 amas and this is 4 amas, and I'm an achsadra over here, you can't go ahead and make a sukkah. It's why? Because you don't say doifen akuma. If it was less than 4 amas, we'd say these walls view these as walls and we're good. Now, according to Abaya, why don't we say P tikra the edge over here, and P tikra the edge over here, and come right down, right? Right. That's the kasha. What's the teretz? Guys, it's speaking where you don't see the walls. It's equal. The wall is equal to the roof, so you don't see it. It's equal up. Says the Gemara. So Tigmu Rava Libedabaya Hishvias Kiroisav, right? When they went ahead and Hishvias Kiroisav. What page is it? Yeah, page 65. 65 bottom left, guys. Take a look. You have no P. you have no P. It's equal. You see the roof and they're equal. So in other words, in this scenario, you could say what P tikra ever slicing, but if it's like this, perfectly like this, I can't believe this is being taped. Anyway, so you're saying P tikra. But Baruch Hashem, no one watches it. And it says the Gemara like that. The Surah Masli La Shmaitza Hagabi. Right? I don't know. The Surah Masli La Shmaitza by Lishna. In Surah and in Ravstown, that's the way we learned. The machlokes between Abaye and Rava, right? Whether you say Pitikra or not. The Pumpatisa, the Abba Shmuel's place, Pumpatisa Masli, Sikach Hagabi Achsadra, Shein La Ptsimim. If you put schach agabi achsadra that doesn't have ptsimim, divya kol psula. Abaye said in the first lashon, guys, it's good. In the second lashon, he says it's no good. Yesh la ptsimim, but if it has ptsimim, Abaye omak sheira and Rava omak psula. So Rava, in the first case, everyone said it was kasha because you say lavud. Because the ptsimim, we're going to go ahead and say put them together. So this second lashon is mamachmir. In the first lashon, Abaye said, even without ptsimim, it was good because say pitikra. In the second lashon, we say no. In the first lashon, Rava agreed with Abaye that ptsimim would work. In the second lashon, he's disagreeing. Okay, so Rava Amapsul Abaye Maksheva. Why? I mean in Lovewood. We say Lovewood. Rava Amapsula. Rava says Psula. Lo I mean in Lovewood. You don't say Lovewood. Now, why don't you say Lovewood, guys? I Allah Lamash Misinai. It's a very gishmak, guys. This is very again. The ptsimim, they're not made for the outside, they're made for the inside. If you're going to use the halach of lavud for the outside, Rabbi says that's not where the halach of Mishmasinim was stated. And therefore, what? It's no good. Says the Gemara. So what's the final halacha? The hilchas of kalishna kama. The halacha is like the lishna kama. The halacha is like the lishna kama of Rava, that what? We say lavud, and therefore by ptsimim, it would be good. And pitikra, we say pitikra only what for the inside and not for the outside. You only say for the inside, not for the outside. So you would say pitikra what by Shabbos, by the Chsadra. We won't say pitikra by Chsadra on the outside to make the outside walls. Okay, very good. Ravashi Ashkel Rav Kahana. Ravashi found Rav Kahana. The Kamasachich Agabe Chsadra. He was making schach on top of the Chsadra. Shein la ptsimim. So now, guys, if you go according to the first lashon, it's no good. Well, according to the second lashon, it's not good according to anybody. According to the first lashon, it's machlokes Abaye v'Rava. We pass on like Rava, so it shouldn't be good. So Rav Ashi questioned Rav Kahana, you're passing like what? Like who? So Ashki Rav Kahana the Masachal Gabi Asad Shein Ptsimim Amalei Leisava Lama Hodam Rava Yesh Lo Ptsimim Ksheira Ein Lo Ptsimim Psuva, so it doesn't have Ptsimim. So Achvilei, so he showed him, Rav Kahana showed Rav Ashi. Now let's only have one gears over here. Let's be curious. The following: Nira mibechutz v'shava b'bifnim. We had this in Erevin, guys. You could see in the inside, if you're standing inside and looking out of the wall, it's totally equal. But from the outside, you could see it. That was le'inyan lechi. That was considered what? Le'inyan lechi. So take a look at page 67. First picture on the page. If you're inside the sukkah, right? If you're inside looking out, right? You don't. It looks equal. But if you're outside, you see it. You see that there's a column. So that column over here had a din of ptsimim. Since it had a din of ptsimim, therefore the halacha is again, like everyone, both Raya and Rabbi agree. You could go ahead right and make it. So that's why it worked. Di'mar nira v'chutz v'shav v'fnim or nida mishum lechi v'lechi hainu ptsimim. Okay, now new sugya. This is a very interesting sugya. We had this early in the Masechta. Psal hayotzim in a sukkah. If you have schach that leaves the sukkah, nidan kisukah. So we used it to go ahead and say it's an extension of a sukkah. So even though you're outside the sukkah, it has a halacha of a sukkah. Now we're going to see four opinions of what this means. Okay, 4 opinions. Psal, guys. Psal is the lashon of schach. It comes from ba'aspecha, v'gonchom yikvecha. Ba'aspecha, when you gather, right, from your garbage, the garbage of a yekev, the garbage of your goy, right? So psal is lashon of psilis. It's junk. So don't get mixed up with lashon of puzzle. Psal. So now psal hayotzim in a sukkah. If you have pschach coming out of a sukkah, nidan kisukah. That's a lacha like sukkah. My psal hayotzim in a sukkah. What exactly is psal hayotzim in a sukkah? What exactly is that? So Ama Ula says Ula, konim mayotzim lachure sukkah. We're speaking about konim that comes out the back of sukkah. Page 67, second picture. So you see over here, it comes out. So if you would be outside there, underneath that, it would be kashrus taf. You'll be in a sukkah. So psal. So yitzim in a sukkah. Psal yitzim in a sukkah is nidon kisukkah. It has the dinwad of the sukkah. We'll see in a second. Psal yitzim in a sukkah, nidon kisukkah. My psal yitzim in a sukkah. What exactly is that? Amar Ula, konim hayotzim lachure sukkah. It's speaking about reeds that are coming out to the back of the sukkah. So you're not in the sukkah proper. You're what? You're outside the sukkah. So konim hayotzim outside the sukkah would have a dinwad of a sukkah. Right. I fed Gemara bein and shalish defanois. You need 3 defanois, says the Gemara. B'deika, you have the 3 defanois. Fed Gemara bein hechsha sukkah. You need. It has to be what hechsha sukkah that the size of the sukkah. Says the Gemara b'deika, you have the size of the sukkah. So I guess I ain't fuck. For being in silsa merub mechamas, you need more shade than sun. B'dika. You seem to have a total extension. So the again, this is using the svara we began to share with. Since that schach was made for the inside, it wasn't made for the outside. I would say it's not a sukkah. Kamash malon that it is. So psala yitzim in a sukkah. If it has 3 walls, if it has more shade than sun, even though it was made for the inside, nonetheless, you have it sticks out. Your schach, you have the long bamboos, they stick out. If you have 3 walls, it will be okay. But we don't have 3 walls. Kamash Milan, right? We don't usually have 3 walls.
No, this picture right here.
Yes, you do. This picture you do have 3 walls. It's recessed. I'm talking about us. Yeah. Now we're gonna have 3 other pshatim guys in Psala Yitzim in a sukkah. Okay, 3 other pshatim. So the first one we have clear. That's the opinion of that's the who said the pshat Ula. Now Rabbi of Rabbi Yosef Ami Travayu Hacha Bikonim Hayotzim Lifnim in a sukkah Umashcha V'Asal Chada Gufa B'Hadayu. They extend from the sukkah along with 1 wall. Picture page 67. Page 67, picture on the bottom, 239. You take a look at the picture. You have a full-fledged sukkah, and then you have a wall extending. You have a wall extending, and then you have schach on top. So that wall that's extending only has 1 wall, guys. You only have 1 kosher wall. Opposite, look, here's what it is. Look, here's your sukkah, my right hand, and here's the extension, and the schach is going out over that extension. So in that area of the schach, even though it doesn't have 3 walls, it's going to be kosher. So that's the opinion of Rabbi Yosef Shavayu Hacha B'Konim Hayotzim Lifnim in Sukkah Umashka Ba'az L'Chadu D'Oifim B'Hadayu. Ma'u D'Teima Halespe Hechsha Sukkah. You don't have what Hechsha Sukkah. Kamash Malon, it works.
It's using the other 2 walls.
It's since it's coming from a kosher sukkah, it's kosher. That's why. It's an extension of a sukkah. Psalacha, it's like coming from a kosher sukkah. It's kisukkah. It's not a sukkah. It gets a halach of a sukkah. Okay. A third opinion. Rabba bar Rav Chana Omer Rabbi Yochanan lo nitzucha el sukkah sheruba tzulasa sheruba tzulsa I'm not reading this right. The nitzucha el sukkah sheruba tzulasa meruba mechamasa miyuta chamasa meruba tzulasa. You know, it's Roiva the Sukkah, guys, is gone to kosher. Roiva the Sukkah is gone to kosher, and there's a part that's not. Picture, page 67. Of a kosher sukkah, and in the middle, you have where you have, and this is very prominent.
Not quite the middle.
I'm saying so. So over here. You have an area that it's not good.
Mhm.
However, we're going to say what? Since it comes from a kosher sukkah, it'll be good. We'll say it's good. So that's the third opinion. So the first opinion is what? It's a full-fledged sukkah extended that was made for the outside. The second opinion is it's an extension of one wall with a schach. And the third opinion is it's an area that is chamsa meruva mitzlasa. So where's the tema tifsol bahach purta? Guys, why don't we view this as avir? Guys, if this was avir has sukkah, guys, what we say yesterday, the avir has sukkah passes in 3 tefachim. So let's say maybe that this area where you have more sun than shade, it's like there's nothing there, and it won't be good. Kamashmalon, that it is. Kamashmalon, that it is. There's no definite kuma. There's no definite kuma. Doesn't count. It's not near the wall. It's not a shiloh for ram. It's zero whatsoever. Only schach. Most of the time, your schach is kosher. You really have to mess things up to mess up your schach.
Right, but the mats go over.
Well, again, then you have an open area. 3 tefachim is then 3 tefachim is a problem. 3 tefachim is a problem. But most of the time, if you're sitting in your sukkah and you see like, oh, I'm using old bamboo and it warps and you have and a little shit, that's no problem. That's really no problem whatsoever. There's no problem whatsoever. This is this thing. This thing. Now, says the Mahal Tema Kamashlan. Now the question is, it doesn't fit in the words. Sala yotzim in a sukkah. This is not yotzah from anything, right? It's not. Where's it yotzah from, right? Says Kamashlan. Umay yotzah. Yotzah me hechsha sukkah. Oh, hechsha sukkah is what? It's tzilsim rubim chamsa. Here it's chamsa rubim tzilsim. More sun than shade. Nonetheless, it's kosher. Guys, geschmack. Rabbi Shiyama loy nitzucha. The fourth din el eschach pasel. Guys, this is a chiddush nifla. Guys, outside. Guys, outside. You got a sukkah that's Zion. Guys, listen to me. Look at me. This is Rebbe's not going to ask. I'm not going to call anybody. No fear. You have a sukkah, minimal sukkah. Wait, we know by now halacha b'shama is what? Zion tefachim, right? Tiny. Zion tefachim is tiny, guys. Zion tefachim is tiny. An amma is 6 tefachim. So you're saying an amma, a max an amma is 2 feet. So 2 feet and a bit is a kosher sukkah. It's nothing, right? So listen to this. Let's say I have on the sukkah, I have 4.5 of kosher schach and 2.5 of non-kosher schach. What do you say the din is? Again, yeah, whatever it is. 4.5 is kosher schach, 2.5 is not kosher schach. I guarantee you'll say it's no good. You don't have a kosher sukkah, right? The halach is it's good. The halach is it's good. Pesal yotzim in a sukkah. In other words, we're gonna using the Ritva says it works like roiv, since roiv is kosher. What's the share? If you'd have 3, it wouldn't be good. Even though the share is usually 4. If you have 3, it won't be good because we said yesterday that's make 3 to make the share of the sukkah that it won't do. It's not pshat. That's still in the sukkah. You don't have a sukkah. But here to make the sukkah, that's the din. Fascinating. Says the Gemara. Rabbi Shaya Amalei Nitzchel Schach Pasel Pachas Mishleisha Schach Pasel less than 3 B'Sukkah Ketana in a small sukkah which is 7 Tvachim. Uma Yaitza Mitara Sukkah. It's Yaitza Mitara Sukkah. So you have 4 shitas. Let's go through them again one more time. First shita is the one that we've been using on the Masechta. You have an extension, you have schach coming out, you have walls coming out, and the schach coming out is tzilsim rubim chamsa, kosher b'yasha, the chiddush being that it's made for the inside, nonetheless, it's kosher. Right? Second thing we said was a wall, right? It extends, one wall extends like this. Good. And even though you don't have 3 walls, since it's coming from a kosher sukkah, it's kosher. Third in, you have kosher schach, that's chamsim rubim chamasa, and one area less than 3 tefachim. One area is tzilsim rubim chamsa. It's chamsim with tzilsim. You have more sun than shade. It's going to be good. Third din, pesel yetzim in a sukkah. You know what that means? If you have a sukkah that's more kosher schach, 4.5, and you don't have 3 of non-kosher schach, to make a sukkah, it'll make a sukkah. They'll make a sukkah. Those are the 3 dinim. Maskul Rav Oishia. Lo yeh ela avir, ve'avir pachas mishleishet tefachim b'sukkah ketana mipasul. Right? What's your chiddush over here? If you're telling me that if it has non-kosher schach, right, that's kosher. This should not be worse than having less than 3. It should be worse than avir. Look at Rashi. Lo yeh ela avir pshita de kosher. That filu avi hachamrim menu. Guys, avi is mochamed in psal. You say avi is chama 3 tefachim. So schach is 4 tefachim. Nonetheless, ain't it possible shares that if it's less than 3 tefachim, guys, my case, 4.5 kosher schach, 2.5 non-kosher schach, right? Sukkah is kosher, yeah? How about this case? 4.5 kosher schach, 2.5 airspace. What's the din? Kosher sukkah. So what's the chiddush of schach posel? Madoch avir airspace, which is more chomer than schach posel. Because in a sukkah gedoyla, it's going to posel in 3 tefachim. A schach posel needs 4 tefachim. Kol shekain that what? In making a sukkah, creating a sukkah katana, the schach posel should be good. If avir is good, that should be good. That's what I read the Gemara. Says the Gemara. Maskiv la Rabbi Oishia. Lo yehi ela avir. It shouldn't be worse than avir. But avir pachas mishleshet tefachim, less than 3 tefachim b'sukkah katana. Be posel, it doesn't posel. So certainly then schach posel shouldn't posel. So Amalei Rabbi Abba ze mitzarif. I'll tell you the chiddush. Ze mitzarif yeshenim tachtov. Ze mitzarif ein yeshem tachtov. If you're in a sukkah, guys, that became kosher al yidei airspace, 2.5 airspace, you can't sleep underneath the airspace. If you're in a sukkah that became kosher because 2.5 is non-kosher schach, you would be able to sleep under that non-kosher schach. That's the difference. That's the chiddush over here. Again, you're taking a sukkah that's 4.5. You want to make it 7. We'll say that things that are usually normal pasel in a large sukkah with the right share, such as schach pasel or airspace, will work as long as it's less than what? Less than 3. If it's less than 3, it'll work. So my scenario, 4.5, 2.5. It's 2.5, right? So what's the chiddush? If 2.5 is going to work by avir, which is mochamer, certainly it'll work 2.5 by schach pasel, which is more mekel, because 4 tefachim. The answer is no. If it's a sukkah, the chiddush over here is a sukkah that's kosher al yedei avir airspace, you would not be able to sleep under the airspace. However, here the sukkah that's muchsher al yedei schach pasel, you will be able to sleep under schach pasel.
So you're better off putting up pasel schach than leaving it empty.
Correct. Again, now I don't know the halacha over here. I didn't tell you this is the halacha. I'm just telling you this is pshat in the psal. Okay. I didn't look up any halachas over here, but I really should have. I really should have looked up the halachas over here.
Why is it say pasel
Schach pasel.
What's considered that?
Anything that's makabel tumah, it doesn't go from the ground.
So you can put a piece of glass. Let's just say that's schach pasel, right? A piece of metal. That's what schach pasel.
Sure.
Right. So why doesn't it just say?
It is saying that.
It is saying that.
That's schach pasel. That's schach pasel is. It assumes that you learned the Masechta and assumes that you learned the Mishnah that says gedulim in aretz. I mean, it assumes that's or from the pasuk in the Chemya when he was describing it. It assumes all of these things.
So
the Gemara assumes that we know something when we learn it.
So why didn't it just say a place that you don't have schach? It could be the bias. It could be a roof. Saying that's schach pasel.
That's not no.
What do you mean? Why is it not?
You're sitting. It's like under a tree.
Correct. So
Again, this is giving the case. These are 2 scenarios.
Wood. That's like a flat. That's like having a roof. That's
Right.
not schach.
Okay, so comes out crazy, guys. What's bothering you in this whole sugya? What's bothering you? A friend Brank is sitting there back saying, "I don't get this, Rabbi. I've been sitting there. I've been sitting in your shir now for a while. You said Zayin Tefachim. I need Zayin Tefachim. I don't need non-kosher stuff with kosher stuff. It makes no sense to me." Maybe he's saying that. Maybe he's not saying that. Maybe he's saying that. Oh, how can you even start with something that's puzzle, something that's kosher? It made no sense to me. I mean, I might be selling it to you, but it made no sense to me. Fred Gemara, Umi Ikamidi, is there anything? Did Starufim Mitzarif who hats me in the kasha? He asks a better question. He says, it's not kasha, guys. You can't sleep under the it's a kasha sukkah, but you can't sleep under this space. But without this space, I don't have a sukkah. Guys, you're telling me that it's a sukkah, then you're making a sukkah, but you can't sleep underneath it. Guys, now we had earlier, when we say doifan akuma, you can't sleep underneath it. Why? Because you can't sleep under a wall. You got to sleep under schach. And we all know schach is the sukkah, right? But over here, it's not a wall. This is the schach, right? So how can you not sleep under it? Umiyah kamidi tistarufi mitzdaref uatzmei in a kasha. Somebody Yitzchak ben Elisha El Yoshev. Amar Yitzchak ben Yoshev. In. I'll show you a place that something itself what is to me mitzdaref is good and in itself is not good. Tit hanora, quicksand, mud, wet mud. Yochiach shem mitzdarfim la'aboyim sa. Guys, let's say you have a mikvah. It's 39. You're a quart short, and you put a running mud, a quart of running mud in it. It's great. What happens if you're toivel in a mikvah of 40 sav of running mud? It's no good. So here's an example of something that what in itself is no good, but it'll be mitzdarif. So who would in what? Who would in my sukkah, right? That it's mitzdarif, and not only is mitzdarif in itself you can't use. Who would in over here? The bloody mud it's mitzdarif, but you can't use it. Who within the airspace it's mitzdarif to create the sukkah, but you can't use it.
It's bottom to the right.
It's wherever. Yeah, the Ritva says like a din of bittul. The Ritva says the din of bittul. Other people argue. Guys, are huge suggers. These are huge suggers.
Sleeping under.
Who? What?
I'm saying you have this puzzle part.
Which part?
The puzzle in the 7
Which part?
The sukkah that's not kosher. The schach that's not kosher. You can't sleep on it.
Huh?
You
could sleep underneath.
You could sleep on it.
That's the difference. You could sleep that. You could sleep underneath. The space you can.
I'm just concerned that the watery mud, okay, 39 saw, becomes ultimately like it waters down. It doesn't remain muddy anymore.
It does.
Yeah,
No.
39
Again, all you want to prove to you something that it itself is no good. It's mitzvah to something that is good, and we're proving that. Says the Mishnah. You make a sukkah like a tzrif. We had this earlier. Again, it's a teepee, page 68. This is according to Rashi. That's according to Rashi. So you make a sukkah, kamin tzrif, like a teepee. Oisha samcha l'kaisel. You put it next to a wall. Next picture. Now you have 3 walls, guys. Notice there's a back wall. There's this wall standing. There's the incline, and then there's one in the back. And you have to say that you can hollow this out to Zayin Fachim, or else there's nothing to talk about, right? Good. Those 2 cases. Rabbi Eliezer Paisel, Rabbi Eliezer says it's puzzle. Says She'ein lehem gag. They're puzzle because they don't have a roof. There's no tefach. In order to be a gag, you need a tefach. The Chacham machshirim, and the Chacham say no, it's kosher. Now we're going to see a gersa change in the Gemara, but and the Gemara is going to ask, what's the sfar of the Chacham to say it's kosher without a gag? Says the Gemara, Tana. Moide Rebbe Eliezer's moide, Shem higbia min akarka tefach. If you elevate this above the ground at tefach, right? No. 69, page 69. What? Yeah, 247. You see in the bottom. On the bottom, it's hard to see. On the bottom, they put a tefach on the bottom. What you do by tefach, guys, is you're creating an oil. A tefach, when you put something, an oil, guys, we said by your mace, guys, remember a tefach, if you have the airspace of a tefach, it's mafsik. Tefach is an oil. So by uplifting the tefach, you're creating that area. So everyone be moida, tefach, okay, or you separate it from the wall of tefach. Here you go. Where you separate it from the wall of tefach, then it'd be moida that it's good. Now, what's the reason for Rabbanan? Why they Rabbanan hold it's kosher, guys? In the Mishnah, we said if it's leaning against the wall, we said it's kosher. What's the reason? It's you're missing a gag. It says
what does that on the bottom do?
That creates an oil.
Why is not oil?
Oil means like this. Once it's an oil on top, so that is being over this. Do you remember we spoke about the haystack? We said the haystack is only if there's no an oil, but if there's a tefach oil, then it's good. Right? That's the same. That's what the same thing. By lifting, elevate. That's what a tefach is.
The same idea is having a sukkah and you bake this thing on top.
In other words, like this. When it's like this, it's on the ground. It's not it's not covering anything. When you elevate it 1 tefach, it's covering that area.
That whole slant is the.
Again, the main thing is that you're elevating the sukkah, that there's a tefach that it's covering. I'm giving you a great sushtel from the haystack. If you remember, we said the haystack's only puzzle if there's no airspace of a tefach. Once there's an airspace of a tefach, it's considered covering something. So that's the same svara over here. That's not a problem. That's not an issue because it's you. The whole thing would be considered the roof. The whole thing would be considered the roof. The whole thing would, since you have that tefach, the slant is a roof. The slant is a roof. Now, the Chacham said even without that gag, it's a roof. Why is that? So now we're gonna without that tefach. My tamayud rabbanon. Shipuye oilim, the incline of an oilim is koilim. It's considered oil. It's considered covering something. Again, the main thing is lashon of covering. Sukkah. Sukkah is a covering to misachik. Right? You know where this lashon comes from? It says Shol went to the cave. Shol went to the cave. Lehesich es raglov. Lehesich es raglov is he went to go to the bathroom, and he said that David was in this cave and he couldn't kill him because he was all alone in the cave and his garment was covering him like a sukkah. Lehesich es raglov, to cover his feet. The lashon of schach, lashon of covering. So that's where it comes from. So once you have an oil, you have a covering. Whatever it is, it's covering that oil. That's what it is. That's what a sukkah, to give us, a much more demonstrative and halachic aspect of what a sukkah is. A sukkah is a covering. A sukkah is a covering. So now,
Where are the walls? There's no walls.
what?
Where are the walls?
The whole thing's not a gag. You have the wall again. You have Zayin Tfachim there. I told you. You look in the Pirish Chai. He'll show you that the wall that speaking in area is hollowed out. That you have Zayin Tfachim. Or else there's nothing to talk about. So now, Shipu Elohim Koilim Dami. Abaya Ashkel Rabbi Yosef the Kogoni Bekilas Chasanim. Abaya found Rabbi Yosef that he was lying in a kilas chasanim in the sukkah. Now, by now we know what a kilas chasanim is. They even give you another picture of it for the last, I don't know how many times they're going to give you the picture, but there it is, right? It's a triangle. It's a 2-posted bed. You throw a sheet on top of it, and you got a triangle, right? Now, guys, if you're in a sukkah, look. Here's my hands. Here's my hands, and this is the person sleeping in here. My thumbs. If I'm in a sukkah, am I sleeping in the sukkah? It would depend what status this has. If it has the status of an oil, then no. If it has not the status of an oil, yeah, then yes. Good. If it has an oil, you're separated, right? If it's not an oil, you're in the sukkah. So Abaya finds Rabbi Yosef sleeping in this, and Amalei he said, Kiman, who are you going according to? Rabbi Eliezer, like Rabbi Eliezer, who says it's puzzle. Guys, that would make sense. Guys, Rabbi Eliezer says that it's puzzle, it doesn't have a gag, right? So if it's puzzle, that means it's not an oil. So how could you go according to Rabbi Eliezer versus the Chachamim? How could you go according to Rabbi Eliezer at all? We say Rabbi Eliezer Shamuti, right? Rabbi Eliezer was a Beishamai. He was excommunicated. The Gemara in the Bava Metzia says the Gemara, Amar Kiman Rabbi Eliezer Shafkis Rabban above the Rabbi Eliezer. So Abaya was incredulous. How could you, Rabbi Yosef, paskin like Rabbi Eliezer that it's an oil, that it's not an oil, and therefore you could sleep in it, not like the Chanim. So Amalei, so Rabbi Yosef told Abaya, Brisa Ipchatani. I had another Brisa that said the opposite of the Mishnah. Rabbi Eliezer Machshir. Rabbi Eliezer says that tent is a good sukkah. And since it's a good sukkah, it's on oil, then you can't sleep in it. The Chachamim Paislin. The Chachamim said it's puzzle. And I hold like the Chachamim. It's puzzle, so if it's puzzle, it's not an oil. So therefore, I'm in a sukkah with mosquito netting. Good. Fred the Gemara. Shavkas Masnison of this Kebraisa. So Abaya said to Rabbi Yosef, the Mishnah says, Rabbi Eliezer says it's puzzle, and the Chachamim say it's kosher. Brisa says what? The opposite. You're going after a Brisa versus a Mishnah? A Mishnah is much more. Rebbe, Rebbe gathered, he used all his wealth to gather together all the Tanoim to write down the Torah Shebal Peh after it had been passed down to get the best, closest possibility to know Shaila what exactly the Torah Shebal Peh was. A Brisa is much more, the word is authoritative than a Mishnah. So how can you go ahead and pass like a Brisa versus the Mishnah? So Amalei, so Rabbi Yosef told Abaya, Masnisin Yepidahi. I'll tell you, why. The Mishnah is the report of a Yachid. It's not an anonymous Mishnah. Guys, when Rabbi said anonymously the Mishnah without a name, then it's very authoritative. Stam Mishnah, right? We say Stam Mishnah, halachic Stam Mishnah, right? Because it's very authoritative, because Rabbi did his best to make sure that's why Rabbi didn't put a name in. He wants you to know that this is the Pshat. However, when someone else reports it, then it's not so authoritative. That's a good hezbollah I just gave it. Now, so it says over here, it says the Amalei Masnisin Yechidahi, the Tanya, listen to this. Ha'oisus Sukasa Kimin Srif. Oisha Samchul Kaisel, that's our Mishnah, right? Reb Nasan Oimer, there's your Yachid, guys. Reb Nasan Oimer, Reb Eliezer Paisel, Feshen Lagag, V'chom Machshirim. In other words, the Mishnah that you're quoting that you want to say overrides a brisa is not authoritative. You know why? Because it's not a Stam Mishnah. It's a Das Yochid. It's Reb Nasan's report of the Mishnah. I'm going according to the brisa, which is authoritative in terms of being Stam, that the Chacham say it's puzzle, and Reb Eliezer says it's kosher.
Sure, thank you.